Hi everyone. Today I'm joined by Graeme Carter. Graeme is currently the Chief Supply Chain Officer of Coty and has previously held senior leadership roles across companies such as Procter& Gamble, Unilever, Amazon, and Avon. Graeme, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, Sam.
As a starting point, could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your career journey so far?
Yeah, of course. First thing to say is that my journey is to the best job I've ever had. Chief Supply Chain Officer here at Coty is a fantastic job, and I'm loving it. And why is that? As I look back at my career, it's because I landed lucky. I left university having done chemical engineering, not really knowing what I wanted to do. But I did know that I enjoyed delivering results. I enjoyed making a difference. I enjoyed working with people, engaging with people, and getting stuff done. And that's what supply chain is about. So very fortunately, I looked at consultancy, I looked at contract manufacturing, I looked at banking. None of those have the same attraction to me then or now as supply chain. So how did I develop through my career? Well, firstly, it was Procter& Gamble, as you mentioned. 20 plus years there, learning from the best. Fantastic company with a very, very strong supply chain. Probably, I think, the first that Gartner awarded as top supply chain company. And there I learned process, structure, systems, ways of working, people engagement, connecting with the organization, and importantly, the technical mastery for all the sub-functions within supply chain. Planning, logistics, warehousing, manufacturing, initiative management, procurement, all of that space I learned at Procter & Gamble from the best. Moved on then to Unilever, bit of a change, where focusing on distribution and logistics, but learnt new skills at Unilever, the networking, the connecting, the engaging, entrepreneurial spirit, art of the possible. Very different to P&G in many, many ways, but also a great learning. And then after 4 years at Unilever, moved on to Amazon, a couple of years at Amazon, learning the numbers, learning the attention to the detail. Every single number counts and you need to know them all. And the process of working backwards. Decide where you're going to end up and then get a plan to get there. Don't start with the next step. Start with the end state and work backwards, the working backwards document. And to make decisions on the basis of data, the numbers again. But recognize that a lot of decisions, and I think I've heard a number of people from Amazon, very senior Amazon resources say this, there are 80-20 decisions. You don't need all the data, you just get on and do. I think they call them reversible decisions. Reversing door, you can make it, and if it's wrong, you can back out, and then you can move quickly. Versus the 100% decisions where you can't reverse it. Building a new fulfillment center, you can't decide it's in the wrong place. You need to get that right so you get all of the data. That's what I learned, many things, but that's a key thing from Amazon. And then Avon, it was about relationships again, but relationships with a focus on the customer. Understanding the customer, loving the customer, which for Avon with our reps, and really making their voice the key one in the room. And that was another huge learning for me, which gave me the opportunity to then come to this role, which, as I've said, best role I've ever had. I've had some fantastic roles in some of the greatest companies in the world, frankly, for supply chain. But this one I'm loving the most.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I guess if we look back at your career, could you tell me what is some of the advice and mentorship that you were given earlier on in your career that helped shape where you've got to today?
That's a tricky one, Sam, because it's relevant at the moment, in the moment, and to me. So I don't want to call one or two out specifically, because that would be unfair. I've had some great leaders across all of those companies. What I would say is not enough, and that's my fault. Mentorship and support and coaching is a two-way street. You need to go ask. So the audience listening, I would encourage you, go ask. Go talk to the leaders in your organization. Go ask them how you're doing, what you should do, what their advice would be. Because they, if they're like me, will be hugely flattered that you think their opinion's important and it's going to affect your career. So go ask them. And therefore, here at Coty, a lot of my time with my direct reports, my senior lead team, is trying to help them do more mentoring and communicating broadly across the Coty organization. Exactly that. Go ask. And then a little bit radically, and go tell. Because in the new digital world, a lot of the mentoring is reverse. Come tell me how all of that stuff works, because it wasn't there when I was doing your job. You need to teach me the new tools and capabilities that are now available. Reverse mentoring, bring me on board. So lots of new stuff I've learned at Coty to drive that mentoring program.
No, absolutely. I think really good advice, and something actually I don't hear that often. I hear people talk about their mentorship schemes. I know a lot of companies put formal schemes in place, but I don't know that many people that just go and ask. And I know from my own experience, when people have asked me, I've been flattered. I've always been happy to help. And I think most people I talk to about this topic say the same. If someone asks them, they're happy to take the time, and they're happy to have that conversation. So no, great advice. I guess if we look at some of your previous roles, particularly, you mentioned working backwards in the data-driven approach of Amazon versus the customer centricity of Avon. How do you feel those different experiences and different companies and different backgrounds helped to reach the stage you're at today, now leading the supply chain for Coty?
It's fascinating when I think back about those 4, now 5 companies. They are so different. So the reason I'm successful in this role is because of those differences. But also, I've had to change my style and approach. So I think what I'm saying is, as people think about their careers, don't be too shy about changing. And don't try and look for identical companies as you move through your career. Think about what you need to learn, what skills you need to learn, and look at the companies through that visor if you can. I mean, I'm assuming you got 4 job offers and you can choose. Often that's not the case.
I think it's a really good point, though. People do often fall into the trap of saying, this is what I'm doing well, therefore if I keep doing this somewhere else, I'll progress faster. And I think there's an inflection point as you move more and more senior, whether that's by function, whether that's by industry, taking the risk, doing something out of your comfort zone, doing something that feels at the time maybe like it might not be the right move, oftentimes actually does enable you to progress faster. And I think, yeah, really, really good advice there.
Well, that's the right thing. I focus here at Coty on using people's strengths. Everybody's different. Everybody brings different strengths to the party. I want to use those. And the gaps in their capabilities, gaps, maybe slight weaknesses versus what I'd ideally like, I can use others' strengths to address those gaps. So go with what you enjoy and what you're good at, do it brilliantly, deliver the results, make a difference, and your career will progress.
Brilliant. No, I think that's fantastic advice. Graeme, if we look forward 10, 15, even 5 years, supply chain has changed a lot in the last 5 years. It's changing a lot today, and it will continue to change a lot. If you look forward, what do you think are some of the most important skills that the future leaders in supply chain should be looking to learn and develop today?
First one by far is digital. AI, ChatGPT, whatever the flavor, you need to understand as best as anyone can what's coming down the pipe in the digital space. We've got an ambition to have 10% of my supply chain organization all digitally savvy, and 50%, so half the organization, actively using digital tools to drive the business forward. Therefore, if I'm going to be recruiting, it's people with digital talent. And I'm training others, and I'm developing the capability across the broader organization with free training and time out and support to learn digital skills. It's a must. Second one then is agility of mind. It used to be that as long as you picked, packed, shipped, delivered, everything was good, and it was just a matter of managing service, inventory, sustainability, and savings, and you were good. Now supply chain has to be much more agile. In the marketplace, in the geopolitical situation with COVID, with cyber, all of that means you've got to have the speed to move between issues, resolve them, institutionalize the fix, and then move on to the next issue, or if you have time, transformational change. And then the final one, I think, more, and this is in the same space, it's imagination. You have to imagine what the future is going to look like and articulate and storytell that for your teams. Because we're all looking a bit blind into what AI is going to do. Looking blind into the distance is not a recipe for success. Imagining and creating a story and it being 80% right, 70% right, kind of who cares, and heading off in that direction towards the future is a lot more powerful than just standing there blind and unimaginative. So digital talent, agility of mind, and imagination. Can you imagine saying that about supply chain, not marketing? It's fun, isn't it?
It's quite a unique one, but I'd agree. I think, things are changing very quickly and people need to consider not just the typical skills, but outside of that. You mentioned agility of mind. I'd love to touch a little bit more on that one in particular. What do you think is the best way to develop that, to practice that, especially sort of earlier in your career? People have the opportunity to start working at that and build that skill, but it's quite a hard skill to develop sometimes. Would you have any advice for someone that wants to improve on that?
Well, what I tend to do is Friday afternoon, half an hour, I spend some time, and this is agility of mind and imagination, thinking about what's going to go wrong next. Because particularly in my role, a lot of my discussions about that went wrong, why didn't you see it coming? Or that might go wrong, what are your plans? So I spend half an hour on a Friday afternoon thinking through next week, next month, next 3 months, next 3 years, what might go wrong next, and have I got the right business continuity plan? Have I got the right HR resources? Have I got the right talent across my organization to be prepared for that change? So that's what I do, and that creates a dynamic in your process and your calendar of always thinking ahead and having that agility. And you can look back at your notes and, well, 6 months ago I thought that might go wrong and I was completely wrong. But this did go wrong, and why did I miss those? What are my contacts? What are my connections? What are my sources? What's my agility of mind that meant I missed those things and are now a problem for my supply chain?
No, fantastic. Thank you very much. And I guess if we look towards career advice, I'd like to start particularly for some of the more junior people who maybe are just starting their career, maybe they're a few years in. What would your biggest piece of advice be to someone who is just starting out their career in supply chain?
I think we've covered most of them. So I would have 4. One is already even starting into the company, plan ahead. So I remember a long time back when I was department manager for Air Liquid in Manchester factory in the UK. I had 28 goals I was going to deliver. And I declared those to my leadership and I told them what I was going to do, and I got on. And 3 years later, I went back with an engineering solution to turn the kettle house into a warehouse, because that was the 28th of those goals that I hadn't delivered. So I was determined to deliver all 28. I planned ahead, I declared my intentions, and I got on and I delivered. Then the next one is know your strengths and play to them. And be aware, be conscious, be cognitive, and reach out and ask people, what am I good at? Back to this mentorship discussion, talk to people. What am I good at? What do I do well? And play to those strengths. Don't go off and try and develop. If you're not good at essay writing, don't volunteer to write the monthly report every month. Go find someone who does that brilliantly, enjoys it, and you focus on getting the results for the monthly report. Silly example. Focus on what you enjoy. You'll do it better. If you enjoy the violin and instead you go off to dance school, you probably won't be very good at dance school. Two very unreal examples for me, just to be clear. I'm not musical and I can't dance. But choose the things you're good at and develop those strengths and play to them, because you'll enjoy it and you'll do well. And then finally, the thing I've always tell anyone who asks me about how to manage their career is deliver results. Preferably declare them before you deliver. Otherwise, you'll have a boss like me who says, thank you, and now? When you go in and say, look, I've hit my target. You need to say, this is my target. This is how I'm doing against my target. Now I've delivered my target over the period of the project.
Fantastic. And if we're to look to the other side of the coin, if you were talking to a vice president, a senior vice president, someone that's one step away from a chief supply chain officer role, what would your advice be to that person?
A lot of similar themes, because it's supply chain. So create your vision of the future, whether it's a sub-function within supply chain or a department or a factory. Work with your team to develop where it's going to be in 3 to 5 years' time. Again, working backwards. If you don't know the destination, how do you know how to make the first step? Keep it simple. I'm learning more and more that simple is best. Simple, standard, create scale means you can be agile and responsive, because you change the same everywhere, because it is the same everywhere. So it sounds ridiculous, and I'm not being Henry Ford. It's not simple, standard, and one color and it's all black. It's simple, standard, all the colors of the rainbow, and we can change quickly and responsively. Business first, supply second. Whenever someone says, look, you've let us down, this service wasn't good enough, get rid of the gut reaction of, yeah, but that wasn't my fault. Your forecast wasn't right, or that supplier let you down. No, the business is missing that revenue. So what are you going to do to go fix it? And what other opportunities in that space can you help the business with? The business results are what matters, not the supply chain results. Focus on your impact and your legacy. Again, get clear where you're going to take the business and work back from that. And think hard about what that impact is. And again, back to my point about mentors, go ask your CEO, go ask your chief supply chain officer, ask your peers across the function what it is they need for you to deliver. And then finally, constant theme throughout, play to your strengths and enjoy your work. If you're not enjoying it, you're in the wrong company, come to Coty. No, I can't say that, but you know what I mean.
I think there's some really good advice in there. And I think particularly when it comes to speaking with other people, working as a business, supply chain is a function of the wider business, and making sure you're interfacing with the rest of the C-suite, making sure that you're thinking from the business perspective, not just from the supply chain perspective. I think, yeah, really, really valuable advice. And especially around enjoying what you do. If you don't enjoy what you do, it's not worth doing.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Look, Graeme, thank you so much for joining me. There's some really brilliant advice in there. I really appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure, Sam. Thank you very much.
Thank you.